People are like, oh, I would never get scammed. They're incorrect. There's a scam for everybody out there.
Talk to me about the trends that you're seeing right now in the scam world.
There's so many scams out there. Elder scams, deepfakes, pig butchering, text messages, phishing. People are losing all their money. What the scammers are doing is they're creating a sense of urgency. Once you have the sense of urgency, your brain just kind of shuts down and you're in survival mode. And that's why they can get money from you.
There's a lot of scams directed at business owners. Why? Because they think they have money. They can exploit the company.
The best way to not get scammed is to avoid the scams in the first place. If someone contacts you out of the blue and eventually asks for money, it is 100% a scam. With teenagers, there's a big scam. It's called sextortion, and it's as bad as the word sounds.
Sarah Osborne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
All right, so Sarah, you are into scam awareness.
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so scam awareness, there's a lot of scams out there. And people are getting scammed on a daily basis. And so my mission is to go out into the community and do as much scam awareness as I can, particularly towards seniors, but anybody can get scammed.
So why? What inspired you to get into this journey?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in 2020, my mother got scammed and she lost some money. It was one of these scams where someone calls on the phone and says that they're the IRS and that she owed back taxes and that if she didn't pay, the FBI was going to come and arrest her. You know, you have an authoritative sounding person on the phone, and especially with seniors, you know, it could be with anybody, but especially with seniors, they're like, oh my goodness, I thought I'd paid all my taxes, but, you know, you get into this mindset. And so the way she was going to get out of it was, you know, to pay. And the first time she paid, she had two payments. The first one was to an ATM machine. And then the second one was to a Bitcoin machine. And this was 2020. And I'm like, what the heck is a Bitcoin machine ATM? And so something my mother's done that I've never used is a Bitcoin ATM machine. And then luckily she, you know, she said she felt like it wasn't right. She called my sister and then, you know, we came in and helped her get through this, but it's, you know, and then once that happened, you know, I'm like, wow, when I retire, I don't want this to happen. What happened to my mother, I don't want it to happen to anybody else. And so, you know, I retired a year ago from ESRI in Redlands. And so this has been my mission.
That's wonderful. And we met at the Redlands Chamber.
Yes.
And as soon as I heard you say, I'm into scam awareness, I was like, I got to talk to this lady because to me, this is a very, very dear topic. I feel that this is one of the things in life that stresses people out. This is something that we do not know what to trust anymore, especially now with AI and whatnot. It's really getting harder and harder. But before we get deeper into this, I want to know more about you. So you said you used to work in ESRI. What was your journey like starting? How did your career get started?
Yeah, so I guess I've always been a map nerd. You know, I can remember as a kid, you know, we'd be going along in the car and we'd have those maps that you would get from the gas station. And I would follow along and I'd see all the intersections. And, you know, I loved maps from the get-go. And then later on, I discovered that I loved computers. And I started off in a computer science program back when computers were still very much in their infancy. And the marriage of the two was just like a natural. And so, you know, I had a professor and he's like, well, there's this thing called geographic information systems. And I did an internship when I was living in Reno, and I did an internship with the county there. And I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is what I got to do. And so there was a little bit of a journey before I actually got to ESRI, but that was like, I was destined to end up there.
And what was your function within ESRI?
So I was in product management, and my products were usually mostly server-based, or later on they were our internet-based products.
So you know a thing or two about the internet and what happens in the digital space.
Yes. And I also, I got into a little bit on the DevOps thing, and I could see people abusing our services. And, now that I think back that, I'm like, that's a kind of a scam, stealing your property, stealing your intellectual property. So, I think, if I were to do this all over again and I had heard of, fraud analysts or something like that, I think it would have been a good fit too. But mapping certainly was as well.
I think this is something that we share in common, is that I love justice. Like for me, you can do whatever you want to be, but if you just be unfair with me, it's like I feel hurt. Like I feel like it's a stab, and I want to always feel that I have a duty to correct the injustice that takes place. And that brings me, like you had a great career in ESRI, one of the greatest companies in the world, I would say. And then you retired. Why don't you just relax and enjoy your retirement?
Well, I'm trying to, but this the more I learn about scams, like with my mother, it was, geez, why didn't the bank say anything? Or how come the telecom company she was using, how come they didn't stop this call from coming in the first place? And you start looking at all these, I was like, wow, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There is so much going on with fraud and different ways that scammers can get to you. And it's I find it kind of fascinating, actually, but it just makes me even want to, I want to get out to the community and just tell people about this, because once you learn about different scams, you're much less likely to get scammed. It's not to say you won't get scammed, but you're going to be more aware. And so that's what I want to bring to the community is this awareness.
And when you go out to the community and tell them, like, I'm doing scam awareness, what is their reaction?
Either I get two reactions. The first is when you have, like, yes, I have a close family member who got scammed. And those people, it's like, it's kind of scam awareness, because now you're probably way more aware of scams than you were before your family member got scammed. The other group of people, it's like, oh, I'll never get scammed. And they're incorrect. There's a scam for everybody out there. And all it takes is for you to be just a little bit off guard, and you will be in the hands of a scammer. And, there's so many scams out there. You can, let's just say, elder scams. We hear about those. It's like with my mother, the IRS calls, right? But now there's a lot of scams out there where they're involved with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and people are losing all their money. And these are smart people. So, it can happen to anybody.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, speaking of scams, as soon as we went on a call, the first thing I told you, oh, I know this guy and this guy and this guy who got scammed. And you're right. They're intelligent people. There's a computer engineer in Switzerland, one of my childhood friends, who got scammed for like $50,000. And this is a smart guy. He's a young, smart guy. So there's nobody immune. There's a brother-in-law who got scammed thinking that Elon Musk is promoting this new coin. So there's a fake representation of Musk on some sites, and Musk was not promoting. This is a fake video, and then they lost like $3,000 or something. And there's more. I mean, back in the days, there's the African prince, right? So talk to me about the trends that you're seeing right now in the scam world.
Well, I'd say there's two things I'm watching pretty closely. The first is artificial intelligence. before you would get an email, say that's, really poorly written, and you're like, of course this is a scammer. But now they can, with ChatGPT, they can write pretty elegant things. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There's what's called deepfakes. And they're actually able to take a picture from the internet and then make it move like it's a person. And they're getting much more believable. And then combine that with voice cloning. And these scammers have a lot in their arsenal. And so I'm very worried, it's becoming so much more believable, and it's becoming so much harder for us to be able to figure out what's true and what's not true.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And the second trend I'm seeing, it's called pig butchering. And these are long cons. And what happens is by the end of the scam, the person has lost every cent they have ever had. So think about all, 40 years or, 30, 40 years of working. You've built up your 401k, you've built up your retirement, you've paid off your house, and all of that is gone in a matter of weeks.
Oh my gosh. So why are scammers so successful?
Well, scammers are, first of all, they do it for a living. And the next thing is they're salespeople, but what they're selling is lies. And, a salesperson, they might make a lot of cold calls. And then when they get a hit, they'll try and sell something. And then, the person will object, and you work on the objections. And then pretty soon you're building trust. And then you can go ahead and sell the product, which in this case is some way for the scammer to get your money.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's social engineering, and people are like, well, I would never get scammed. I know a scammer. I can smell a scammer 100 miles away. And it's like, well, not necessarily, because they have scripts. I mean, they're running on these scripts, and these scripts are successful, so they keep doing it. And people who do scam baiting, they know the scripts by heart. But out here, us, we don't know those scripts by heart. So, it's new to us.
So what are the red flags that people watching can look out for just to try as much as possible to protect ourselves?
Well, I've decided that the best way to not get scammed is to avoid the scams in the first place. And it sounds simple, but let's take phone calls. It's like, don't answer the phone unless it's in your contacts list. And, I don't answer I just wait for it to go to voicemail. But people like my mother, I remember she's just like, Mom, don't answer the phone. She's like, I can't not answer the phone. It's just kind of this mindset that they have. And, she doesn't answer the phone now, but it's just, and then with text messages, you get a lot of, to me, they're obvious scam text messages, but never, ever click on the links. They're just trying to draw you in. And then once you're drawn in, then they can have their script and they'll work on you.
Correct. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about deepfakes. What are the ways, let's say someone is, pick up the phone from somebody in my contact list, sounded like a significant other or something. How would what is the way to detect? And I'm in an emergency, please transfer $2,000 for me.
Yes, there's something called the Grandparent Scam, but there can be riffs on it for whatever generation you're going after. But you're exactly right. And with voice cloning, it could be somebody and it could also they could spoof your phone number. So you're right. It can happen. When you get into a situation like that, what the scammers are doing is they're creating a sense of urgency. And once you have the sense of urgency, your brain just kind of shuts down and you're in survival mode. And that's why they can get money from you. So you have to, stand back, take a few deep breaths, and say, is this really happening? And it's easy for me to say right now, but you have to, it's like, why is this happening? And then, with family members, you could have a code word or ask some questions that only your family would know. And if the person on the other side can't answer those, it's like, hang up. And I always tell people, it's like, you can hang up. You can hang up on anybody. You can hang up on your spouse, right? If you think there's something weird going on, just hang up. So
I heard about the codes. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you in person agree with the people close to you that if I ever ask you this question, you answer in a certain way or this word or
Yeah.
something.
I haven't tried it yet, because remember, when you're in this panicky phone call, you may not be thinking straight. So, but eventually in those situations, the scammer's going to ask for money, and they'll just keep, they try this sense of urgency, right?
Yeah.
And if anyone ever asks you for money on the phone, it's like, hang up.
Yeah.
That's the best you could do. And then just start over, right? It's like, maybe I should call that person.
Yeah. And also with email. So sometimes they send you an email that the email is coming from a reputable company, for example.
Yep.
But then when you dig deep into that domain, no, it's a copycat of the same website.
It is.
But it's a different domain, and they try to trick you to believe that that's the domain, and they want to log in information and everything.
Yeah, when it comes to emails and text messages, don't click on the links. Sometimes you're expecting something, though. And in that case, like, you have to verify your email address, or your doctor's office calls, or your bank sends you a 6-digit code or something like that. You're expecting them. Click on the link. I wish there was other ways to communicate like that, but but otherwise I don't. It's like, go to the source and verify. You get an email from Amazon or a text message from Amazon. I've gotten both. What you want to do is, don't click on any links. That's what they want you to do. It's called phishing, and they want you to click on the link, and it's going to take you to a fake website, and then they're going to try and get your credit card or whatever they're trying to fish for. What you need to do is go to your Amazon account, log in, and find out. Look at your orders. Look at your because that's the reality, not the email.
But like, if you receive an email from me, please click on the link. Because what happens is that I have an email list, and these people that I share, for example, every time we record a podcast, I send it to my email list. And I usually, it's a YouTube video. Come on. Like, it's hard.
Yeah. Sometimes a lot of, especially in text messages, the link is those short URLs, and you don't know where that's going to go. But if your link actually has like youtube.com in it, I'd probably click on that, because that's the actual domain.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So you have this journey. You started this, I would say, activism. Would you consider yourself like an activist in this domain, or what is the kind of title that you would?
Yeah, I think I'm actually starting to lean more towards like, man, I got to get this out there, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to do it however I can. I'm not sitting on the corners or anything, but I really, my goal is to talk to as many people in the community as I can. And I've started, I've done some presentations at Plymouth Village in Redlands, and the library in Redlands, and I hope to expand from that. There's as I say, there's a scam for everyone. So there's plenty to talk about with any age group. So, actually with teenagers, there's a big scam. It's called sextortion.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's as bad as the word sounds. What it is it's usually teenage boys or young adults who get caught up in this, and they're playing a video game, or they're on Instagram or Snapchat, and someone contacts them, and it's, some cute girl, and eventually it ends up, it's like, here's a nude of me. Why don't you send me a nude of you? And, as I say, these are smart kids, but their brain shuts off and they will actually send a nude. And then immediately after that, the scammer starts demanding money. And it's very tragic because some of these kids who get scammed with this, that the only way they can see out of it is to commit suicide. And it's not like 2 days later, it's 3 hours later. So it's horrific. And so, so there's scams for everybody out there.
And, just now you reminded me. So before I moved to the US, my parents own a family school. We have a private school back in Lebanon, right? And I happened to work in the school for like 5 years. But then after I left back to Dubai and continued my career, I heard that one of our previous students, she was a young lady, and she committed suicide. Her dad was in the police, so she managed to get her hold of her dad's gun, and she committed suicide because of something related to this kind of stuff. And it makes me sad because she was a bright student. Like, she was really smart. And so there's a lot of sad stories out there. But how can we prevent them? How can we, I know that you are giving presentations, you're talking to everyone you know. How can we amplify this? How can we make sure that, we all the time are ahead of the scammers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say one thing I've noticed is that if you tell someone one time, it's like, please don't click on the links, don't answer the phone unless it's in your contacts. One time's not enough. You got to keep coming back and reminding them over and over again. And so I figure with trying to amplify things, I need people in the community to help me. It's like, I tell you about scams and scam awareness, and then you can go out and tell your family and your friends, and then hopefully they can go out and tell their family and friends, because, in this country, there's really not a lot of fallback. There's not a lot of places you can go to, especially if it's a scam, a cyber scam. If it's a scam where if someone's coming up to your front door and then you hand them money, you have a better chance of getting that back, actually. But if you are involved in a cyber scam and the criminals are overseas, you're never going to see that money again. And people, it's like, you go to the cops. Yeah, you can file a report, which you should. But they really can't do that much. They can't. I'm sure they want to, but they can't. And so, and the banks, they have their hands tied a little bit. It's like, if you want your money out, they have to give you your money out. Now, sometimes they can hold it back a little bit, but, and then the telecom companies, yeah, I'm sure that they could stop some of these calls, but there's not a lot of pressure to. So they're not. So it's up to us, each of us individually. We have to look out for everybody around us.
And the podcast that we're doing right now, a lot of our audience are business owners. And, a lot of the people we feature are entrepreneurs and business owners. And I thought that, business owners are resilient to scams. That's my assumption. And it turns out there's a lot of scams directed at business owners. Why? Because they think they have money. They can exploit the company. They can do all sorts of different things for businesses. So if someone is listening who are a small business owner, what would you say the trends are in terms of scam, what they should be look for, and how can they secure their organization?
Yeah, I'd say with any business, you need to have some kind of program where you're constantly refreshing yourself or your employees about different scams that could go on. I'm not quite as up to date on actual business scams, but just you as a person, the weakest link in any company is going to be the person when it comes to a scam, because all it takes is, a phone call or you clicking on a link,
Putting in
or
the data.
putting in the data, and those types of things you got to be aware of. I mean, there's things like embezzlement or shoplifting and things like that, but I'm talking more about like getting to your employees in some way where they inadvertently do something that gets the scammer into your systems. So you also need to have very good IT, which is something about. And I would say don't skimp on that, and make sure that this is for everybody. On anything you have, you're going to have strong passwords. Any way that we can slow down these scammers, we have to put these blocks in place.
And two-factor authentication.
Yes, anytime there's two-factor authentication, you need to use it. And it's much better if you have an authenticator app. And if you don't know what that is, it's you download. It's like Google Authenticator. There's some other ones out there.
DO.
And what it is instead of your code coming to your email, which can always be
spoofed
or
your phone
stolen or whatever, this comes from your phone, so it's not coming over the internet in any way. And then you plug. It's just the same thing. You plug in the 6-digit code,
right?
But any banking, anything that you really need secure, you've got to have, you have to have two-factor authentication on.
Absolutely. So let's say people are listening, they're energized, they love what you're saying, they want to get involved, they want to help. What can they do?
Well, the first thing you could do is, I'm happy to talk to anybody. I'm willing to come out, talk to service groups or, any kind of group. But the other thing is, there's a lot of resources online. It's a little bit scattered, unfortunately, but the way I started learning about a lot of these scams is I went to YouTube and just, there's information on any type of scam. Another a really good resource is some of our government agencies, like the FBI has a web page that has resources on it. AARP is actually a really good resource, and you don't have to be 50 to use it. And if you've been scammed, they can help guide you through as well. You don't have to be 50 to talk to somebody from the hotline with AARP. So there are resources out there. I would encourage everyone, there's some YouTube videos out there. There's scam baiters out there. One's called Kitboga, Kitboga, and he's pretty funny, but he's talking about a serious problem, and you learn a lot from watching these scam baiters.
Yeah, I mean, in our conversation, we will never be able to cover all the details, all the different types of scams. There's like a ton of stuff that we can talk about. To sum this up, all right, what are the key takeaways you want people to take out from this episode?
I would say, this day and age, you can't really trust what you see or hear on the internet, on your phone, what you're getting in text messages. So you have to assess everything. It's just like, take a little bit of time, assess. If there's ever a sense of urgency, step back and verify. Go to a different source. If someone contacts you out of the blue and eventually asks for money, it is 100% a scam. Or assume it's 100% a scam. And be very wary of anything that involves Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, because the scammers love this. And they'll have their story, their script, and next thing you know, you're down at a Bitcoin ATM, or you're online on a fake Bitcoin website, and you are, putting your money into it. And that money, it's really hard to claw it back. Most times it cannot be clawed back. So if you are, I'm not saying never invest in Bitcoin, but make sure you understand what you're doing, and don't have someone you've never met before, teach you how to invest in Bitcoin. Those are the biggest scams right now, is anything related to Bitcoin, cryptocurrency.
Great advice. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.